Tomorrow's plan. I am going to. Talking about the future is something that is done very frequently, whether we are talking about our dreams or simply telling someone what we will do tomorrow is all spoken in the future tense. As in the previous lesson, this isn't a grammar lesson. This lesson is to provide many different sentences using the future tense. In the previous lesson, we concentrated on present tense using I am. When we speak in the future tense, we can still use I am, but it is important what follows the two words that will make it future tense. Here are a couple of examples. I'm going to see Bob tomorrow. I'm going to meet John at the airport at 6 o'clock tonight. I'm going to go home in an hour. I'm going to the bus stop right after class. I'm going to do that tomorrow. When using going to after I am, it is important that a future indicator is present. For example, if I say I am going to meet John, this can also be present tense that we practiced previously. But if you add a future indicator like at 6 o'clock tonight, then it becomes future tense. Other future tense indicators are going to go, going to be, I will, I have to. Let's practice using these words. I'm going to be dead if I don't finish this project by tomorrow. I'm going to go home next week. I'll meet you there at 5. I can't go tonight because I have to work late. Tomorrow's plan, questions and answers. When asking questions about the future, you can ask questions like, what are you going to do tonight? What are you doing next week? When do you plan on doing your homework? When are you going to eat dinner? What time do we have to leave for the airport? What should we do tonight? There are many different questions you can ask. By changing a few words, you can make numerous questions properly about the future. When you are answering questions that relate to the future, remember to use the future tense. Here's some ways to answer the questions directly above. What are you going to do tonight? I plan on meeting John after dinner. We're going to a nightclub. I'm going to take my girlfriend out to dinner, and if we have time, we might try to see a movie. What are you doing next week? Since I'm on vacation next week, I plan on going to Busan to visit some friends down there. Next week, I have to go shopping for all the Christmas presents. I have to buy a present for my dad, mom, and my 2 sisters. When do you plan on doing your homework? I think I'm going to do my homework after I watch the World Cup. I don't think I'll be able to concentrate until after the game is over. I'm so unmotivated to do my homework, but I'll eventually have to do it, so I'll get around to them probably after dinner. What time do you have to leave for the airport? The flight comes in at 4:30, so I plan on leaving at about 3:30. The security is pretty tight, so I should get there early. I plan on arriving there 2 hours before my flight leaves. What should we do tonight? After dinner, let's go grab a couple of beers. Then we can go shopping for a couple of hours, and afterwards, we can rent a video and watch it at my place. I'm pretty busy tonight. I have to do the laundry, vacuum, and then make dinner, so I won't be able to meet you tonight. Tomorrow's plan. Example conversation. Let's use this time to incorporate what we have learned so far. Bob is in the hospital. Did you get a chance to visit him? I'm going to see Bob tomorrow. I thought you had to meet John tomorrow. I'm going to meet John at the airport at 6 o'clock tonight. I'm going home now. Do you want to head out together? No thanks. I'm going to go home in about an hour. Didn't you need to buy a present for your brother's birthday? I'm going to do that tomorrow. I'm going to go to the bus stop right after class, so I won't have time to meet you. That's okay. We can always get together tomorrow. Why do you look so stressed? I'm going to be dead if I don't finish this project by tomorrow. I thought you had 2 weeks to finish this project. I don't have time to explain now. I'll talk to you later. Since we are done with school, when are you going back home? I'm going to go home next week. Me too. Do you want to meet at the train station on Sunday? Sure. I'll meet you there at 5. Practice asking questions. What are you going to do tonight? What are you doing next week? When do you plan on doing your homework? When are you going to eat dinner? What time do we have to leave for the airport? What should we do tonight? Yesterday, the past, general statements. In daily conversation, talking about the past is done very frequently. Whenever you meet a friend, you always tell each other what you have been doing recently. Friends are always interested in each other, so they want to know how you have been spending your time in the past. Today's lesson is going to target past tense communication. This goes hand in hand with the last 2 lessons, and changing a few words around can make a future or present tense sentence into a past tense sentence. To begin, here are a couple of sentences that are common to say. I went to the airport yesterday. I met Bob last week. I was an hour late for my meeting. I went to the bus stop, but I was 30 seconds late. A person on the street told me the bus just went by. I completed that task this morning. Besides some words that change, many times a word with the letter D or ed at the end changes the word to past tense. Here are some examples. I was being polite, so I opened the door for him. I stapled the papers together to keep them organized. The paper ripped on the bottom, so I taped them together. I switched the presents around because I found out Jane doesn't like red lipstick. I was very interested in the topic, so I paid close attention. The tricky part is to know when to add a D to the end of a word to make it past tense. There are exceptions that can cause confusion. For example, I rode my bike to school. It would be incorrect to say I righted. I built the house from scratch. Incorrect way is to say I builded. I sat on the chair next to the emergency exit. Incorrect way is to say sitted. So remember to use past tense words correctly, or the other person might not understand what you were saying. Yesterday, the past. Questions and answers. When asking questions about the past, you can ask questions like, how did you enjoy the movie? What time did you get home last night? How was your date with Jackie? How was the traffic going to the airport? What have you been up to? What did you do last weekend? How was the party? How come you didn't come to class yesterday? How did your presentation go? Here are some ways you can answer these types of questions. Remember to use past tense because these actions already occurred. How did you enjoy the movie? It was a long movie, but overall, the movie was great. I really didn't like the movie. It was slow and boring. I enjoyed the movie so much that I saw it again. What time did you get home last night? I got home at 2 in the morning. I didn't make it home until 11 last night. I made it home at midnight. How was your date with Jackie? The date went so well. We had dinner at a seafood restaurant, and then we saw a movie together. I don't think it went too well. We hardly had anything to talk about. I really thought Jackie was bored to death. The date was all right. She called me this morning to go out again, but I haven't responded yet. What have you been up to? I just graduated from school, so I'm happy that I'm done. I met Jackie yesterday, and we spent the evening together in a nice restaurant. The only thing I have done in the last 3 months is computer games. What did you do last weekend? Last weekend, I visited my parents. I went golfing on Saturday. I shot a great score. I stayed home and watched TV all weekend long. How come you didn't come to class yesterday? I was very sick yesterday. I missed the bus, and by the time I got to campus, class was already over. I slept in because I didn't hear the alarm ring. How did your presentation go? It went okay. A few of the people asked some tough questions, but overall it was good. I messed up so bad. I brought the wrong folder from my office, so I didn't have any notes. It was the best presentation of the day. My boss told me I was organized, focused, and spoke clearly. Yesterday, the past, example conversation. Let's study some examples, and then we will be at the practice session. Why didn't you come to my party last night? I'm sorry I couldn't make it. I had to go visit my grandmother at the hospital. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Is she doing okay? They just completed a small operation, and the doctor said she should recover. Did you get a chance to go to that new restaurant down the street? Yeah, I ordered the special, but the server screwed up my order. That sucks. So what ended up happening? They finally got my steak out, but it was overcooked. It was a terrible experience. What did you do last weekend? I went on a date with Sammy. Really? How was it? I couldn't ask for a better night. We talked all throughout our 2-hour dinner, and then we sat by the river and cuddled in the night. Didn't you finish finals week? Don't remind me. I think I failed most of the exams. Why did you do so terrible? My mind just went blank. I think I overloaded my brain. I just couldn't concentrate during the exams. Weather, summer and autumn. In this section, we'll learn about the 4 different seasons along with the difference between Celsius and Fahrenheit. Also, we'll learn about weather in different parts of the world. In the next session, we'll practice more dialogue. But this is a good starting point when learning to hold a conversation about the weather. Summer. Depending on the location, summer can be warm and pleasant or unbearably hot and humid. Although you will describe summer in one particular way, you should be aware of how other people describe summer in different parts of the world. In Nevada, Arizona, Egypt, or other places that are like deserts, people might say, "Summer is very hot and dry. It's not so bad when we are in the shade." Summer is extremely hot. The sun will burn you if you don't wear sunscreen. Because it's not humid, it is easy to get used to. In Seattle, the summer is the best season. Summer is the only time of year that it doesn't rain much. Summer is like paradise in Seattle. If summer wasn't so good here, I would move to a different city. In New York, Korea, or other hot and humid places, people can say, "Summer is both hot and humid here." I am always sticky because I sweat so much during the summer. Without air conditioning, I don't know how I would survive. Spring and fall, autumn. From my perception, I notice that spring and autumn are generally pleasant seasons for many areas of the world. I haven't heard enough to say one way or another, so I can only write down what I know. My favorite season is autumn. The only reason I don't like the fall is due to all the leaves I have to rake up. Fall is so beautiful because of all the different color leaves everywhere. It rains a lot around here during the fall. It gets cold in late autumn. In our country, autumn is just like summer. It's hot and humid. My favorite season is spring because of the budding flowers. I love the spring because it's not cold nor hot. The spring season here causes a lot of people to sneeze due to all the flowers appearing. Many people with allergies hate the spring. Weather, winter. Winter has many differences between locations. Some places might be extremely cold like Korea, New York, Alaska, Greenland, etc. And some places might be perfect like Hawaii, Los Angeles, Mexico, and other hot places. Hot places that enjoy pleasant summer warmth. I don't think we have a winter here. During the winter months, it's still 80 degrees, so everyone loves the winter months because it's not too hot. Winter time is the best time to visit because the temperature is the best during January. I like to go to Hawaii for my winter vacations because it's so cold in my home city. Cold places. It's freezing out. It doesn't snow often, but when it does, it stays around for several weeks because it stays cold. For 3 months, this city will be covered with a layer of snow because it will never melt. It doesn't get too cold here, but it's always raining and very gloomy. The winter here is cold and dry. We hardly get any precipitation. Weather, Fahrenheit and Celsius. It's unfortunate that some countries still use the Fahrenheit system. It would be so much easier if everything was in Celsius. But because the United States still uses the Fahrenheit system, knowing the conversion of Celsius to Fahrenheit will help when speaking to Americans. How do you convert Fahrenheit to Celsius? Well, you subtract 32 from Fahrenheit, multiply by 5, and then divide by 9. How do you convert Celsius to Fahrenheit? You multiply Celsius by 9, divide by 5, then add 32. Here's an example dialogue. What is the average temperature in Seoul during June? It's usually about 26 degrees Celsius during June. What is that in Fahrenheit? That would be about 80 degrees Fahrenheit. Usually, it takes some time to convert degrees using the conversion method, so it's easier to have general temperatures already memorized. Here's a small table so you can quickly respond when talking with a foreigner about temperature. You don't need to remember everything, but if you know a couple of numbers, you can just change the other number slightly. For example, if you know that 80 degrees is about 27 degrees Celsius, then if the temperature is 77 degrees, you can figure that it will be about 25 degrees Celsius. Also, you don't have to be very accurate. In conversation, many people just want general numbers, and being off by a half a degree will not do any harm. Finally, during the winter months, it gets so cold that the temperature goes below 0 degrees Celsius. Let's practice a few sentences using negative numbers. How cold does it usually get in Korea? Usually around -5 degrees Celsius, but sometimes it gets as cold as -12 degrees. How cold does it get in Alaska? depending on the area, but it's common for the temperature to be below zero. Is that in Fahrenheit or Celsius? Fahrenheit. That means it's 20 below zero. Remember, although numbers below zero are negative numbers, it's not common to say -2 degrees. It's not wrong to say it, and everyone will understand. However, when speaking to many people, almost everyone says -2 degrees. Another common way to say it is below zero is to say 2 below, as in the example above. Weather. Questions and answers. In this session, we are primarily going to practice speaking key sentences that will help you carry a conversation about the weather. Asking about the weather. Do you know what the weather will be like tomorrow? Do you know if it's going to rain tomorrow? Did you see the weather forecast? What is the weather like in Los Angeles? How is the climate in Korea? Does it rain much in Denver? How different is the weather between Busan and Seoul? What is your favorite season of the year? Answering questions about the weather. The weather is supposed to be sunny and warm tomorrow. It's supposed to rain for the next several days. I didn't see the news yesterday, so I don't know what the weather is going to be like. Weather in Los Angeles is usually hot in the summer and mild in the winter. It never really gets that cold. The weather in Busan is very similar to Seoul. The main difference is that Seoul gets a little more snow in the winter and a little hotter in the summer. This is primarily because Busan is right next to the water. My favorite season of the year is spring. It's not too cold, and the anticipation of a good summer puts me in a good mood. Statements about the weather. I heard Seattle is a very gloomy city with so many clouds. The weather is beautiful this time of year. I hate the rain. It makes me feel depressed. Autumn is a great season. The summer months are so humid in Korea. I can't stand the cold winter months. It's a beautiful day today, isn't it? I wish the weather was like this every day. It's been raining for 5 days straight. I wonder when it will stop raining. I hate the snow. The roads are dangerous to drive in, and when it melts, the streets are very dirty. I love snowboarding, so I always look forward to the winter. The winter months are tolerable because I don't mind the cold. Korea has 4 distinct seasons. Weather. Long description. Being able to speak specific sentences is good. However, it is more important to be able to say a whole paragraph when talking about topics such as the weather. I'll have a specific lesson about putting sentences together in the future lesson, but I'll give one advice now. Basically, make 10 sentences. After you know your 10 sentences about this question, you can say all of them one after the other, so it is a long answer. The 10 sentences should be in a list format. We'll learn how to speak longer in a future lesson, but if you want to give it a try now, here are 2 examples. What is the weather like in Korea? Well, the weather in Korea is unique with 4 distinct seasons. In the winter, the temperature is about 0 degrees Celsius. But because it doesn't rain much in the winter, there isn't much snow, and the air is very dry. In spring, the days warm up significantly, but the night gets a little chilly. The summer has 2 characteristics. It is very hot and humid most of the time, and for about 3 weeks or so, we have a rainy season called monsoon. It gets very rainy and windy during that time period. But we all look forward to autumn. It is a beautiful time of year, and the temperature is very pleasant. If you plan on visiting Korea, I highly recommend visiting during autumn. Which season do you like the most? I like summer the most, but at the same time, I hate it. I like summer because it's warm. I don't mind the heat, and I like the longer days, so I can do more activities like swimming, bicycling, rollerblading, and many other outdoor activities. I usually take a short vacation during the summer, so I always look forward to that. However, the part about summer I hate the most is during the monsoon season. I can tolerate the humidity, but when it gets hot and humid, along with the rain and the wind, then it gets terrible.